Meet the most fascinating crook of all time. Oh yes, Black Canary started off as a villain-ish. However, she also has something else that's really funny in her origin, in that she ends up phasing out or replacing the hero that she was brought on to make more interesting. Yeah, you see this love-struck guy? He's Johnny Thunder, and Black Canary is about to steal all of his. Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, reviews of comics new and old, to history, to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. Hi, Sasha from the future here. Yes, I'm aware. The audio, it sounds like I'm in a tin can. While it is not the best, after reviewing the footage, I was really happy with the vibe and energy and tone of this video, and I knew that if I refilmed it, it wouldn't be the same, and I would definitely have forgotten all my ad-libs. So I'm gonna go with it. I understand if it's too much for you, and I will see you in another video. Sometimes we make mistakes. Really simple, silly mistakes. And it's okay to live in that humbleness sometimes. I enjoyed this video despite the humble pie I'm eating editing it. How's the pie? So good. And yes, I did replicate the error to do this insert clip because I know what I did and it was oh so silly. Black Canary is a character with a fascinating and confusing history. We even did a video on it. It was a video detailing how continuity and crises saw her split into two characters in a way, transforming her from one character also into her own mom. It was a bizarre good time. If you missed it, check it out. I'll have links. In that video, we also touched on the genesis of her character, and that was that she was brought in to make Johnny Thunder more interesting. Give him a bit of a boost, which let me read one of my favorite salty quotes. In fact, I'm gonna read it again. One of Black Canary's co-creators, Carmine Infantino, stated, "I was drawing Johnny Thunder, which was not much of a character. I suppose he could have been better because his Thunderbolt was interesting, but the situations they were in were pretty juvenile. Bob Canary wrote these stories and he had no respect for the characters. These stories were nowhere near as good as the Flash stories. DC knew it. They knew Johnny Thunder was a loser. So Canary and I brought the Black Canary into the series. Immediately she got a good response and it was bye-bye Johnny Thunder. Nobody missed him." I'm sure that nobody was hyperbolic. The last time I did the Black Canary video, I put some jokes in there about Johnny Thunder and there were some impassioned fans who came to his defense. So let's talk a bit about Johnny. Johnny Thunder debuted in Flash Comics #1 in 1940. He was created by John Wentworth and Stan Ashmeyer. He was in Flash Comics until issue 91 in 1948, so that's 5 issues after Black Canary debuted in issue 86. He'd have some 50s adventures, but they'd be pretty awkward, and then he'd be memory hold for a bit. Now this series was initially called Johnny Thunderbolt, but it was later shortened. Johnny's deal is that he has a genie named Yiz. At least I think that's how it's pronounced. They say it's say-you backwards. I don't know. Everybody just calls it the Thunderbolt. He gets this genie because of a mystic ritual. This on his 7th birthday, for he is the 7th son of the 7th son, born on the 7th day of the 7th month at the 7th hour in 1917. Now there are a bunch of mythologies and folk beliefs that this can be attached to. 7 can be a pretty mystical number, including biblically. However, here it just ties into what is actually a pretty awkward and racist backstory for Johnny. He's kidnapped by some random foreign people and painted brown, and then his hair is dyed. He's brought overseas to be grown to be the ruler of the world under their control. The country was called Badnesia. Do you get it? Badnesia. They were the Badnesians. How did they even verify that he was the 7th son from an unbroken line of 7th sons? I want to know about this. But the answers, they will not come. Ultimately, their plan falls through. Johnny has this bad luck that's also good luck kind of flowing around him, where seemingly bad things happen but they end up being good outcomes for Johnny, and he ends up back in America not knowing that he has any kind of thing special about him at all. For a while he didn't even know that he had this Thunderbolt. Johnny was kind of a bumbling character at the start. He didn't know what was happening and the powers were just vague. He could do seemingly anything, and he kind of fell into being a joke character. He accidentally figured out the magic word that would summon his Thunderbolt. It was spelled differently, but it was pronounced say-you, and eventually they would just write say-you, which I think is meant to be funny because it was a bit more of a common saying back in the day. So it's something he could say accidentally, or that wouldn't sound odd if he just yelled say-you. His lore would evolve slowly, from learning he had powers at all in issue 10 and 11 to being aware of the Thunderbolt proper and gaining control fully by issue 20. The dynamic would be that Johnny was a bit dim-witted. Their words, not mine. And the Thunderbolt was smart, so it was a bit of a role reversal. This poor genie just having to follow this dolt around. Even his adventures were more like mishaps, comedic happenings. This included his role in the Justice Society, which he joined by accident after wishing he could be a member. Johnny just didn't fully come together as a character. The elements didn't all work as one. Ultimately, he was a guy with a genie. His redeeming trait was meant to be that he was good-hearted. Thing is, in an era when new heroes were popping up around every corner, he just didn't end up catching on, and especially in the late 1940s when the superhero star was waning. He's very quickly overshadowed by other characters, and that includes Black Canary. He would actually feature heavily in the explanation for how Black Canary was so young, and the whole two Black Canaries, Earth 1, Earth 2 stuff, and we'd get evil Johnny Thunder. Also, the 90s would try a reboot with a female Johnny Thunder, Johnny with an I this time, which was a gritty detective mini with a genie. But this time she would control the Thunderbolt, she would like transform and take over the Thunderbolt, and then her body would just be there. It's just an awkward power to make work. And years later, Johnny Thunder would become a legacy character, thanks to J.J. Williams, or Jakeem Johnny Williams, so he's still also a Johnny. And this version ended up on Stargirl, the CW series. Stargirl coming in clutch with the legacy characters. And later, original Johnny would end up having some prominence in Doomsday Clock. But we're not here to just talk about Johnny, we're here to talk about how Black Canary stole his thunder. No, I will not stop. Joke so nice I said it twice. I'm Sasha, and if you're enjoying this content, you know what to do. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Join us in this comic book journey. Black Canary was created by Robert Canary and Carmine Infantino, and as mentioned, debuted in Flash Comics number 86 in 1947. So let's take a look at the stories that saw her subvert Johnny. Here's Canary. Oh, sorry, it's DC. Here's the Black Canary. The Terminators always. There was recently a trade paperback released of these early stories, and if you're a fan of tracking comic history, it's a must-have because it has some really nice updated colorations of these stories, some of which have not been reprinted for decades. For some reason, this comic didn't have issue 89 of Flash Comics in it, and so of course I had to investigate. I wouldn't leave you hanging. I had to discern why. Okay, first appearance time. Meet the most fascinating crook of all time, the Black Canary. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody but Johnny Thunder. What did possessing this knowledge bring him? Obsolescence. Johnny is walking down the street when he hears someone singing in his direction, singing at him. Ah, already the seeds of Black Canary's musical interest being sown. Handsome, will you please help me? I have no idea how credible that was. I have never sung at anybody to try and get their attention. Is that hot? Is singing things at people hot? I don't know. I don't know what's hot, and I never did, and I probably never will.
Johnny Thunder never turns down a maiden in distress.
Yes, she's singing at you. She must be super distressed. She says that she needs to sneak back into her house, that she's supposed to be attending a masquerade ball, but that her guardian won't let her have any fun, and so she had to sneak out, but she left her mask behind. Can you please go get it?
It didn't actually say teehee, I just felt it was appropriate.
Johnny Wani, just go in and get her masky wasky, pretty please, it's in the safe. Sounds legit. Johnny falls for it. He goes up the ladder that's already placed there and gets the mask.
This is real romantic, helping a lady in distress.
Johnny, your distress kink is getting out of hand. You'll believe anybody. But then she leaves and takes the ladder with her. Ice cold. So he calls for help from his Thunderbolt.
You're always in some dopey trouble. Dread it. And must you pick a time when I'm reading Flash Comics?
Ooh, meta reference. Also, Johnny says he doesn't want help, just advice, because he's just dangling out a window, you know, no pressure. Suddenly, he's yoinked inside, and we learn that this is a gangster's hideout. What? You mean it wasn't her abusive boyfriend's house? I can't trust anything anymore. You think you can have faith in singing damsels? They say the Canary always robs from crooks like them. She's got big Robin Hood energy. But in the kerfuffle, Johnny gets pushed into a lamp, and he may have killed a man. The lamp hits him, and he gets called a killer, but like, did he really kill him? I can't tell. Killer me? Oh no, I didn't mean it. Johnny is so busy apologizing that he ends up moving in such a way that the other gangsters knock themselves out trying to get him. It's kind of Johnny's deal. So when the Thunderbolt goes to check on him, well, he finds him on a pile of goons. Okay, is that one guy dead? So they look in the safe and they learn that these gangsters were planning a robbery of another gangster who had already stolen a jewel. So it's a robbery of a robbery, a re-robbery. You really did need the mask to get into the masquerade ball he's throwing. It's kind of neat that he sent out these special masks. So what was special about them? Were they monogrammed or something? I need to know. Canary's at the event and trying to steal the sapphire, but she gets caught in the act. But huzzah, Johnny is here, being carried in by his genie. The goons get arrested, the sapphire is returned, and Black Canary escapes. And Johnny wonders, will he ever see her again? Oh, Johnny, let me tell you about someone named Oliver Queen. Also, yes, you'll see her, but she won't see you. So the story's pretty middle of the road. It's your standard Johnny bumbling his way through things. Black Canary stands out in this tale, and her costume definitely helps with that. When it came to designing her, Canary asked Infantino to create his ideal dream girl, so he put a little extra energy behind this design. Fishnets for days. Now, Black Canary's of course back in the next issue. In the tale, the Black Canary returns. Johnny is reading about another crime by Black Canary in the paper, and she happens to be running by his window and passes him the parcel she has, saying she was framed. And because she lied to him last time, he believes her instantly and takes the package. And then he instantly gets beat up by some goons who take the package. Then he gets hit in the head with a rock with a note attached to it from Black Canary saying to follow the car. I love the idea that she just gave it to him specifically for the purpose that he could be beat up and not hurt. So he does follow the car, ends up posturing and gets captured. It's now a statue.
Okay, Flash Comics, you need to give me more. I'm intrigued by this owl. Black Canary shows up and is put into a sack to be lowered into the alligator pit, but is saved by Johnny, who escaped the same pit because he had a Boy Scout knife.
They didn't search him? You gotta search people before you put him in the pit. Villainy 101. Now the owl has evidence inside it that will convict a dangerous criminal. So they go in and get it. Johnny takes them out with his typical klutzery, but Canary saves him from being shot. Johnny, your thunder's all right.
Yes, S for satisfactory. The next issue has a teaser of Black Canary coming out of a pie, and then we open on Johnny receiving a pie with a blackbird in it, so he figures it must be from Black Canary. And so he follows the bird for 2 hours. Wow, Johnny. Hashtag dedicated. He ends up on the sketchy side of town, and he asks some obvious gangsters if they've seen Black Canary. They have. They kidnapped her, or they at least have her bound, and so they grab him and tie him up too. He then learns while tied up that there was a map in the pie. He didn't get into it. He should have eaten a piece, then he might have seen the map. This cage left over by a circus is the best we could do for you on such short notice, Canary. Get in. I love how apologetic this goon sounds, and also that they tried to get a themed trap. That was nice of them. The last guy just had a burlap sack. The map is to charity funds that these goons stole. Why does everybody have to put something on a physical map? Please, just remember where you left it, guys. When the cage is dropped and they're about to plummet to their doom, Johnny summons his Thunderbolt and saves them.
Didn't I tell you to stay away from women, especially the Black Canary?
I mean, actually, he told him to stop falling for villainesses, and I think that the Black Canary is an anti-hero, so I think there's a loophole. Johnny is technically listening. So they go back to the house, but Johnny's comic relief child character ate the pie. It's not his child, it's just a child comic relief character that's in his stories, which are already heavily comedic relief layers. But it turns out the Blackbird had the map the whole time, and it came back. Hooray! The next issue is the one that wasn't in this collection, and I had to know, why was it not worthy of being here? So I sought it out, and it just turns out it's because Black Canary isn't in it. I was a bit disappointed. I kind of hoped it was something scandalous, but no, she's just not there, so we skipped to the next time.
Issue 90, triple exposure.
Why is Johnny's neck so long? Why is her torso so long?
Is it a magic camera?
Johnny is hurrying to catch his bus when his picture is taken as a robbery is happening behind him at the National Bank. The photographer tells him to give him his address and he'll send him the photo for free. Not sus at all. And so Johnny tells him, free photo. But when the picture arrives at his house, it's the wrong picture. It's a picture of a random old man. So annoyed that he has the wrong free photo, he goes to the photographer's shop only to find the Black Canary there and the photographer dead. Johnny tells her to get out or she could be in trouble. Does he think she killed a man? I genuinely never know what Johnny is thinking because he's just stumbling around from scene to scene. Who is Johnny Thunder? But then the police are there and they arrest both of them because they have a picture of them at the National Bank robbing it. Is it actually a magic camera? Can we have some magic in this series about a genie? But as they're being taken in, they're ambushed by some goons who claim that Canary pulled the job for them. This is Banco Jim, and he has some slick 1940s tech skills. The photographer, it turns out, actually caught the real gang in that picture he took of Johnny. So, Banco Jim got the photo, blanked them out, blanked himself and the rest of the gang out, put Black Canary in, and then put a temporary random old man on Johnny's photo to lure him there. Does Johnny just have a reputation for complaining about free things? How did they know he would go there? Oh man, this random photo that I didn't even ask to be taken, the audacity of it not being correct. I'm gonna go talk to somebody. He's gonna go talk to the manager. Canary and Johnny make a run for it and hide in a gas tank and have to summon the Thunderbolt to be saved. And the money was at the photo shop. Oh, come on now.
Watch the birdie.
Is that a catchphrase? Johnny's fate is sealed. Johnny helps by falling on a bunch of flashbulbs that go off.
Speaking of frames, can I have a picture of you?
Look, Johnny just cut one out of the newspaper like everybody else. I just realized how dark that joke is. I know back in the day giving pictures to people was more of a thing, but also she's only said that he's all right, so she hasn't exactly been throwing out huge signs. Wow, Johnny, you're okay. Picture, please.
91. Johnny's last issue in Flash Comics.
Strapped to a rocket. Classic. Johnny is sleeping in the forest taking a break from a hike when some young boys lift a tree and hurl it into the air. But it was a cardboard tree being used by gangsters to hide their airfield from Black Canary. But the joke's on them. She was on the plane the whole time. Popping out to help her, Johnny gets himself captured. Thanks, Johnny. And because of this, she gets coerced into pulling the parachute job that they want to pull for them. This one goon calls Johnny her boyfriend. Look, listen, Johnny wishes. I don't think he got that photo. This one gets a bit confusing. Like, Johnny is gagged, but somehow manages to summon the Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt gets grounded by a lightning rod and so gets captured along with them and tied to a rocket. So is he corporeal then? Anyway, he wakes up and saves them.
And Black Canary gets really close up to Johnny, into his personal space, into like the kissing space,
to ask him a really important question. Just how did he summon the Thunderbolt? Well, he was so scared he bit through the gag. Bye, Johnny. So reading through these, it really highlights why Johnny was in a position to be replaced. He's kind of one note. He has one joke, and so it leads to the stories he's in feeling repetitious. And I don't think Infantino's description of juvenile is misplaced. It's basically look at Johnny save the day by accident, and sometimes with the help of a genie who does all the actual work. Even his whole I'm a nice guy persona doesn't come through in his solo series because so little time is given to emotional character work. He just comes across as hapless and a little blank. Canary, by contrast, is not only a new character, which helps, because that in and of itself is exciting, but she also has an appealing design and a distinct character built around a trope people enjoy, the Robin Hood trope. She wasn't quite a femme fatale, and in fact came across more heroically than Johnny because she was more competent than him, even while he was saving her, because again, that was just by accident. She also seemed like she had inside information and could get things done, and she was brave. She felt fresh and new and like there were stories to be told with her, which as it turns out there would be. Even though some of that is hindsight bias, there were definitely even at the time more stories to tell with her than there were with Johnny, who they were already struggling with, which is why they brought her in the first place. Johnny's role felt like it could be filled by many other comic or side characters. Now, in fairness to Johnny, they do some really nice things with him when they're passing the torch onto Jakeem. It's a lot of respect for a character who could have been treated like a joke. They also end up, from this passing on, doing more things with him as a result. In passing the torch, he gained credibility, and then he had more stories to tell that were different from before and actually gave him some weight because he moved past being just a haha, look, he's tripping into stuff character. Side note, I really liked Jakeem. They should do more with him. He's still around. He was cool, and his friendship with Stargirl was cute. Make it happen, Stargirl. Give the world Jakeem. So in conclusion, while Black Canary isn't amazing in these issues, and still very much coming into her own, there is much to work with. And when it comes down deciding between her and Johnny, the choice seems pretty clear. Gotta get ruthless up in here. So those were the tales that saw Black Canary displace Johnny Thunder. She would get her own backup going forward and end up on the JSA and just become a bigger part of the DC universe moving on. So I want to hear your thoughts. Did you know about Johnny Thunder? Were you / are you a fan? Would you have replaced Johnny with Black Canary? Who's an older or more obscure hero that you feel deserves more recognition? Tell me things down below. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Should I sing it? Bye-bye.